Okay for the Senate.
Yeah, move the Senate version.
Of what?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that,
I mean, I'm good at reading your mind and everything, but not quite that
I
good.
thought we were that close. You know how that goes at times, since our districts are aligned.
So we are moving on to resources. Our first issue is on page 1,
But I like how you think,
I
Assemblywoman.
know, it's good.
and the issue is the Marine Protected Area Monitoring. There was a difference of opinion between the houses on the fund source. We have a motion from Assemblywoman Weber to go with the Senate version, which is to approve the governor's proposal, but to shift to the Ocean Protection Fund. But again, we had already had the discussion how there are buckets of funds and that this in effect will drip down to the general fund.
That's
But
2-1 on the Assembly.
the motion is for the Senate version, 2-1-2-1. And again, page 2, which deals with the creation of planning for sea level rise database, the difference was the fund source. Again, Ocean Protection Fund or General Fund, as the governor and the Assembly had proposed.
Let me see if Ms. Melendez is reading my mind.
Which one are you going for?
Move the Senate version.
All right, so we have a motion for the Senate, 2-1.
2-1.
2-1.
We're going to have to go on a retreat or something. Shirley.
Yeah. Our next item in resources is page 5.
Sorry, we've done 3 and 4. Move the Senate version.
All right.
2-1. Oh, 3-0.
For the Environmental License Plate Fund shortfall, the difference in effect was the fund shifts.
Yeah, okay.
We have a motion for the
No
Senate.
here. Oh.
Okay, so we have 2-1, 3-0.
We would just note that without the trailer bill language related to the fee, we are concerned about the solvency of the ELPF in the budget year.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Bosler. Next item is page 7. These are ARA funds. Again, we've had a full conversation on this.
Move the Senate version.
There's a motion for the Senate version.
3-0.
which Rejected the governor's proposal. The idea being that this was a policy issue that should be further considered. Ms. Bosler, I would imagine
We
you'll go with
understand
the
there's going to be
governor's
a consideration of a separate trailer bill that will address several issues related to the Public Utilities Commission, and we've agreed to that approach.
proposal. Okay. Senator Nielsen, the motion is for the Senate, 3-0, 3-0. Moving to page 10. This is the underground injection program. Assemblyman Lara? Senator Lara, excuse me.
It's okay. Mr. Chair, we are going to move the compromise, which is the assembly positions and money, plus the TBL and BBL regarding the oversight.
Thank you. So there is a motion for the assembly positions and dollars, plus the oversight language.
Yes,
Ms. Bosler.
I know there's a lot of work that's gone into this compromise, and we appreciate all the hard work on it, and I think there's a few things to work out in trailer bill, but we are supportive of the compromise.
All right, thank you.
No.
2-1, 2-1.
Let's combine with 10.
Page 11 is the Division of Oil, Gas, and Geothermal Resources Management System. Senator Lara.
Thank you. Move the compromise, which is a $6 million plus BBL to allow the $4 million after reporting.
After reporting, okay. Ms. Bosler?
We are supportive of that compromise, and we appreciate the hard work that went into getting there.
Great, Okay, so we do have a compromise,
No.
2-1,
3-0.
3-0. Page 12 has to do with our ongoing illegal fireworks disposal issue.
Yeah.
Senator Lara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move the compromise, which says we get the money from TSCA fund.
The Toxic Substances Control Account,
Correct.
and then there is some trailer bill language. And Ms. Bosler?
Yes, we are supportive of the compromise, including the $5 million from the Toxic Substances Control Account, and also the compromise trailer bill language. I believe our version was modified through discussions with your staff and the Assembly staff.
So is some compromise language. All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Senator
could
Nielsen?
someone sort of characterize that trailer bill language? And, my concern is what are the opportunities to increase that fee?
We'll have Finance respond to you.
Will Shopsman with Department of Finance. So there's no fee in the trailer bill. It's just simply clarifying how the fire marshal can manage its stock of fireworks. The modifications that we worked out with staff essentially put a sunset language on that management versus disposal change, and also clarified some of the processes by which fire marshal can manage its stock of illegal fireworks.
Okay, management would imply managing the supply stored at this time in California, and then disposal would be taking it somewhere else in California or another state. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, now that said, though, will this not impact the industry in some manner or way through the costs?
This trailer bill in itself does not impact industry. This is simply setting up a protocol for the fire marshal to handle its stock of fireworks that it's currently storing.
But, and I do understand that, but if the protocols then would dictate it, they have to find a waste facility somewhere in another state, and it's costly to transfer, and it's costly to put it in, that could have some implications, could it not, to the industry?
I believe the disposal is current law, so that is already an issue. And I think that the compromise shifting to manage is really about giving the states more flexibility in how to manage that stock of fireworks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Finance, for that clarification. So we do have a motion for the compromise, 2-1,
That would be a big fat no.
2-1. Our next item is on page 17 and has to do with helicopter replacements.
Mr. Chair, move the Assembly version.
We have a motion for the Assembly version, which rejected the governor's proposed budget bill language and did not take action on the Senate budget bill language.
I just would want to clarify that the replacement of these old antiquated helicopters does continue to be a priority and something that the administration will continue to pursue regardless of the inclusion of no budget bill here. Of course, the appropriation will be a matter of future budgets when we are closer to that procurement stage.
All right, we'll look forward to working with you on that. Senator Nielsen, page 17 is the Assembly. 2-1, 2-1. Page 20 deals with the challenges to Clear Lake.
Mr. Chair, move the Assembly version.
Thank you, Senator Lara. So the motion is to appropriate $1 million from the Fish and Game Preservation Fund to restore Clear Lake wetlands, maintaining the lake water quality and preventing the spread of invasive species throughout the lake. 3-0,
2-1.
2-1. Colleagues, we're going to keep page 21 open for now. We're just passing temporarily. We'll move on to page 28. In the Department of Parks and Recreation, this is our capital tour guides issue, and I believe we have a compromise.
Mr. Chair, move the assembly version
All right,
with,
so that is the compromise of approving the $1.4 million.
Parks and Rec Fund.
But instead of using general fund, using the State Park Recreation Fund, it is one time.
So the compromise, just to be clear, right?
Shifts the funds from general fund to the State Park Recreation Fund.
Okay.
Page 28.
3-0 for us.
Okay. 3-0 on the Assembly side, 3-0 on the Senate side. And page 29 is the removal of the delta salinity barriers.
Mr. Chair, move the compromise with half the funds coming from the state water project funding.
So we split the funding down the middle. $22 million as the governor proposed. Half in the compromise comes from the general fund, the other half from the state water project funds. Ms. Bosler?
We continue to support a general fund allocation for this purpose, and we do think that the salinity barriers are already having multi-benefits to the region, as well as to the contractors. And so we support the general fund funding source here.
Thank you. We thought that at least in part, we should have some funding other than general fund. Senator Nielsen? I'm sorry? Go right ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I just have to observe here, having been a representative of the Delta and been dealing with this issue since '79, salinity's always been a problem, and all the billions that we have spent and poured into the Delta, including billions of gallons of water, have not stopped the salinity problem. In fact, a university professor in '09 told us that we needed more saline water coming up the Sacramento River. That was his plan. But this was something long ago, I think back in the 60s, called the Reber Plan. But my point is, all of the billions we're spending in the Delta have not solved the problem, have not even made a dent in the problem. And I'm getting weary of the interest coming and saying that there's always a crisis. I want the Department of Resources to come at us with some hard answers, not just more money.
Thank you, Senator.
That means no.
I understand that's probably not an endorsement for the motion. But again,
Surprise.
we thought splitting the funds, recognizing that general fund, the beneficiary of the investment should pay some piece. Clearly, it'll be a statewide benefit, but also very particularly to these water projects. So that's the reason for our compromise here.
Yeah,
Ms.
I would
Bosler?
just note this augmentation here is just a very simple removal of the barriers that were an extraordinary measure that was taken this year because of the fourth year of an extraordinary drought. The last time barriers were placed in the Delta was back in the 1970s. So this is an extraordinary situation that we were faced with and installing the barriers, and this money assures that they will be removed in order to not impact the migratory salmon in the fall.
Right, and our point is there will be a direct benefit to the State Water Project and the Central Valley Project. So that's the idea of splitting the funds. Motion is 2-1 and
2-1.
2-1. Our next item on page 31, we will pass over temporarily and come back to shortly. So that takes us to page 33.
Mr. Chair, move the compromise which approves $3 million now with the remaining 2.9 million available after the following metrics have been met, and those metrics are budget bill language with JLBC notification.
Thank you, Senator Lara. So we have the motion. Ms. Bosler.
And we're supportive of the compromise proposal.
Okay. Senator Nielsen, 2-1. 2-1. Page 34 is the Bay Delta Water Quality Control Plan. And this one we will also pass over for a brief moment. $35 is another compromise. This deals in the Department of Toxic Substances Control, Enforcement, Permitting, and Oversight.
Mr. Chair, move the assembly plus the compromise TBL.
So the assembly position is the number of positions but made permanent, and then the trailer bill language is of oversight. Ms. Bosler?
Yes. We understand the conversion to permanent positions, and that's consistent with our proposal to do away with the limited term positions. We have not reviewed the final version of the trailer bill language. We do recognize a lot of work has gone into this. We just continue to need to work on the trailer bill language. And we do also just want to recommend that both the toxic substances control account and the hazardous waste control account, we do have some more work in future years, next year probably, to really address some significant issues with those fund sources. But we do support this effort to improve the Department of Toxic Substances Control's outcomes.
All right, thank you. Compromise on page 35. Vote is 2-1.
Haven't seen the trailer bill language, 2-1.
2-1. All right. Moving on to page 36. This is the Tijuana River Valley pilot project. Problem with accumulation of waste, in particular tires and other refuse, solid waste.
Mr. Chair, move the assembly version.
All right. The assembly version has trailer bill language to fund a pilot project to be administered by Cal Recycle to identify waste tire flows and to conduct cleanup on both sides of the border. And the vote is?
No here,
Okay.
and Mr. Chairman, I will observe that I believe that this action is going to take this fee to the status of a tax and should be subject to a Prop 26 lawsuit.
All right. I'll take that as a no. 2-1, 2-1. Page 38 is a nutrition incentive market match program for those who are beneficiaries of our CalFresh program and our Women, Infants, and Children food program. There would be a $2.5 million general fund match for those who expend their benefits at Office of Farm to Fork, so that we make sure low-income communities have access to fresh fruits and vegetables at farmers markets.
Move the assembly, move the Senate version.
All right, we do have a motion for the Senate version. Page 38, the vote is 2-1.
2-1.
2-1.
We do have some technical concerns with this proposal in addition to the overall general fund concerns. Just don't have an existing infrastructure really to implement this bill, so concerned about that.
All right, thank you. Page 39 is organic waste, Assemblywoman Weber.
Yeah, I move that we reject the proposal.
Right. We had discussed earlier that the Department of Finance was pulling the proposal. We need to take an action on that. The vote is 3-0.
I will be a no, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I believe this is an issue that is needing attention, and that's the nature of my no vote. I don't think this will give it the attention that's
All right,
required.
the motion is just to recognize there's no proposal in front of us, but 2-1, a protest vote. And on the Assembly side, 2-1. Take that, Department of Finance.
What is this supposed to be?
Page 42 is net energy metering on military bases. We have a compromise here that allows for military base net metering, but capped at 6 megawatts.
Move the compromise.
Motion is to accept the compromise. Senator Nielsen, 2-1.
I'm going to abstain for now, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
2-1, 2-0.
Which one is this, the supplement? I think they're holding it.
Moving on to page 43, this is our cap and trade program. Ms. Bosler.
So on cap and trade, we would propose making sure that the funding that supports the staffing that was in the current year, and also the staffing that supports the continuous appropriations to be included in the Budget Act, but we are comfortable deferring the conversations about the remaining 40% of new monies to a further conversation later in the summer.
Thank you, Ms. Bosler. So the recommendation here from the Department of Finance is that we recognize the continuous appropriation for the 60% that we worked out last year. The non-allocated 40%, we're going to continue working together through the summer months, but then also recognizing that there's a need to approve a number of BCPs for a total of $3.4 million in cap and trade funds. So that will be the motion by Senator Lara.
And I would
you.
just note that we did have several critical drought appropriations, and so I think it's important that we move those cap and trade conversations along quickly, because those funds could be used in the coming months as we deal with this very difficult drought.
I think we all agree with that. So that is the motion. My guess is 2-1 and 2-1. So aside from the 3 items that we held open, that does conclude our work on resources. And we're going to take just a moment break here before we move to transportation. All right, folks, I wasn't suggesting recess time, just a moment pause. So we are moving on to transportation. We will come back to those three issues and resources shortly. We have exactly 4 items before us in transportation. The first one is on page 2. And that is the Willeriga Park sound wall. I believe there was a 3-way compromise. Would you like to walk us through that, please?
Yes, my understanding is we're comfortable with the money, with the project, as long as it's funded with local dollars.
So there's trailer bill language that will allow Sacramento County to use local transportation dollars, and that is the trailer bill language. All right.
Okay. So move the compromise language.
We have a motion for the compromise, and we're missing a couple members on the Senate side.
So if they're using local funds, then I am on board.
All right, so we will have a 3-0 on the Assembly side, and we'll be coming back for the vote on the Senate side. The next item is on page 5. And that's the Fresno County Proposition 42, Maintenance of Effort.
It's the Senate version? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll move the Senate version. Move the Senate version.
All right, we do have a motion for the Senate version, and as we discussed just a couple days ago, the Senate version recognized that Fresno County was granted a 5-year extension until June of 2020, so there's no immediacy to this, and that is the reason for the motion. 3-0 on the Assembly side, coming back for the vote on the Senate side. The next item is on page 8, and this is the pilot fatigue study. We have a compromise that would appropriate $100,000 for the study using special funds.
Move the compromise.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And the special fund is the Board of Pilot Commissioners Special Fund.
I'm in.
3-0 on Assembly side, coming back for the vote on the Senate side.
Did they tell you this is a million now?
Page 11 is the body camera pilot program for the California Highway Patrol. Assemblywoman Weber.
Yes, we have reached a compromise for a tradable language with the CAP-HP body camera pilot program. That would be $1 million with budget bill language that would be contingent upon the fact that they come back with a plan or a proposal as to how they would utilize the $1 million in taking in consideration the issues that we raised concerning privacy issues, since it's a pilot, so we can learn about the issues of privacy, issues of reporting and viewing of tapes and so forth. So we would look, that money, the report would come back as to how they would use the money before the money is expended. So they would make a proposal on the use of the $1 million for CHP.
And the funding would be contingent upon.
It's in the motor vehicle account.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Assemblywoman.
may I ask, so does that include the purchase of cameras? Because the last round we went through was 200 cameras for $2 million. So this is $1 million.
Right, it'd be fewer
100 cameras?
Right, it's a pilot. It's a pilot program, so it's not providing cameras for everyone.
So it will be up to the CHP to share with us the details of how they would spend that $1 million. And as the Assemblywoman pointed out, how, not only how the dollars would be spent, but dealing with issues of privacy. How would the information gathered on the cameras be used? How would it be stored?
Okay.
The original proposal was not only for twice that amount, but without any clarification as to how
So
it
we're
would be spent.
narrowing it just a bit. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, then it's 3-0 on the Assembly side.
Senator Nielsen.
Mr. Chairman, I raised a number of points before, and some of those concerns remain to be the case. I know the Highway Patrol is responding as they feel that they must, but I am still enormously concerned with this prospective application of such things as body cameras. And there's many, many questions that need to be defined before we get down this path, even to the degree of this pilot thing. So I will just be abstaining at this point, but raising concerns about it in other forums as we proceed.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nielsen. So that is the proposal before us. We 2-0 on the Senate side, 3-0 on the Assembly side. That's it.
You have to go back and vote. Need the public safety votes. Laura's gone out.
Moving to where? All right, so we do have a few votes to come back to pick up the Senate votes on the motions on the earlier pages in transportation. But as announced at the top of the hearing, we're going to move up next to public safety, judicial labor. Thanks. Ready to go?
We're ready.